Here we go. The guts. Here we go.
Okay, here we go. The guts.
Love it. Love it.
So, yeah, love. I'm glad that you like acronyms, man. That's that's.
I'm full of them. You'll get sick of them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's but no, I was trying to find a way to kind of concisely put my thoughts down for how I look at microcaps.
Mm-hmm.
And so I initially thought, okay, here are the factors. But then I was thinking, well, there's also, and it's kind of in the name, guts. Like guts it's a very internal, it's a feeling.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
It's just part of, I mean, it takes guts to invest in microcaps, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why there's also mindset portion, which we can get into both here. So
right.
So growth. All right. I mean, growth really, to me, it's critical. I mean, if you're really looking for multibaggers, I mean, value is important, but really growth is going to support the business.
Okay.
I mean, a business, I mean, it needs sales, right? It needs to grow those sales. Sales drives everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you've got growth. I mean, growth can be pretty vast. I mean, you've got growth in sales and earnings, but how are the margins growing? Are the margins growing? Is there margins growth? Is
mm-hmm.
it or is it are they receding? How's the FCF?
Mm-hmm.
And also it's the kind of growth. So I guess not to get too technical here, but I mean, in physics, right? You've got rate of change. Or in calculus, you've got like first order, second order. It's the rate of change. So, for example, you've got high growth.
Mm-hmm.
But is that high growth? Is that high growth continuing to be high? Is it accelerating, or
okay.
it's high but it's decelerating?
Okay.
Same with, or on the opposite side, you've got a low growth company, but it's actually rising rapidly.
Okay.
So it kind of, looking at that trend or looking at the rate of change can give some
sequential growth is important to you too, not just year over year. You like to see that sequential. You're looking at that a lot, I assume, right?
Right. So yeah, so say a company has got an EPS growth of 100%. It's like, wow, man, that's fantastic. But it was 150% last quarter.
Right.
And it was 200% the quarter before. So I mean, it's high like at that point in time, but sometimes watching the trend can.
And those comps are going to get tougher too when they come along, when they round trip those comps.
Yeah,
so it's going to be harder to really, beat them potentially. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, undervalued. So this is your value factor. I guess I'm sure you have a similar thought here, but basically, I think one of the comments around, value stopped working, it's no longer a thing. I'm not sure you can broadly paint it that way, but maybe, at least the way I think about it, is that in an efficient market, a low valuation should tell you that the stock is cheap for a reason.
Correct.
Like there's all kinds of trades, there's lots of visibility. You've got 27 analysts on it. It's
You're right.
like it's gonna be hard to find a gap.
How are you gonna beat that? How are you gonna beat the market? Right.
Right.
That's where you get the big cap kind of playing field.
Yeah. So in an inefficient market, I mean, a low valuation doesn't necessarily mean it's a poor company. It could just be part of the phase that it's in, or maybe there's something that's being overestimated, or people are overreacting to. But definitely in microcap land, where it is more inefficient, I think there's more opportunity here for value.
Right. Or no one's found it.
Or
not enough people have found it to not enough money flowing into it to bring the shares up.
There you go. There you go. Kind of on one of my pieces in Seeking Alpha, I was trying to describe how you can have market valuation, which is the actual price, like say the PE ratio, but also then you also have a valuation sentiment.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not always the same. So let's just go for this yellow here. So when you have a market valuation, say a PE of 10, and the stock is efficiently priced, then it's has a fair valuation and it's fairly valued.
Okay.
So there's not much opportunity. If
Mhm.
it has a low valuation, PE of call it 5,
Mhm.
but it's fairly valued, then it's efficiently priced. Like it's priced low for a reason.
I see.
On the high side, you got a PE of 20, but it's a very successful growth stock. It's got good prospects. It's fairly valued. Like it's a PE of 20 is fair.
Okay.
So that's kind of an efficient market. So when you've got where the interesting pockets are, is when you have a low valuation.
Mhm.
So call it a PE of 5, but there's actually some undervalue there. So there's maybe some overreaction to some news, or as you said, Maj, maybe it's not just discovered yet.
Mhm.
So there could be some long opportunity there. Similarly, and this one's more counterintuitive, but you can have stocks that are PE of 30, 40, 50 that are still cheap.
Right.
I mean, it's hard, it's more difficult to identify, but if the growth runway is there and the market is there, I mean, that could be a PE 100 company, but it's only at PE 50.
That's where Peter Lynch's PEG ratio comes into handy there, right? That's what his kind of all things about.
There you go. There you go.
Comparing PE to growth.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then on the flip side, you can have a stock with a low valuation, but it's actually still
Right.
overvalued.
Right.
It's got more way to go, which is kind of where you don't want to be. Like that's like a true value trap.
Yep. Yep.
Where you're looking for something cheap, but it's just gonna there's a reason. And similarly, you can have a stock that's very highly valued, but really has very few prospects, or there's something that it can be an overvalued stock.
That's kind of where GARP, lies, in their, growth at a reasonable price. It's just, I guess GARP maybe assumes the market's efficient to some degree. So if you're finding a stock that is a really low PE, it might be a low PE for a reason. That there's risk,
Right.
that there's risk, it's in there, and then the PE is taken into account, and vice versa, right? On the high. So they go, the GARP tries to find these reasonably priced stocks that are still undervalued to some degree. Maybe that's your inefficient pocket, right? Is
right.
in there that they're searching for. But there could be, what's awesome in the microcap land is that that box you have there, which I like there, is that low valuation. That might look that the market's like putting it at a low PE maybe for a reason, but you might think it's because it's you might assume because maybe that's has a low PE because it's risky. The market might be telling you that, you might be thinking that the market's efficient, so it's telling me that the stock should have a low PE because the markets are efficient. But as we know, in NanoCap one, they're not efficient. It might just be a bunch of other reasons why that PE is low, nothing to do with risk.
Yeah.
And that's what we can try and find, right? And that's what you're trying to find in your factor investing to some degree. And your factors are
Exactly.
hopefully your factors are telling you that, right? To some degree, you're trying to find those really inefficient pieces of pockets there.
I think when you and this is the other part too. Sometimes looking just at value can be misleading, especially in a very efficient market. But when you combine it with your growth, your quality, your balance sheet, your even technicals, I think that's where value really helps. I mean, that's kind of part of the whole guts methodology. And this can be a controversial one. Conventional wisdom is you can't time the market, but
Right.
You can't time the market, but the market's always changing. So I mean, the market is dynamic by nature. I believe it's so I mean, if you're it seems funny to take a static approach to something that's moving.
Right.
But again, that's
I mean, the real thing, right?
very
Timing
difficult to implement.
can make a difference.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you can have some element of timing in your strategy, it can make a difference. There's no doubt about it.
I mean, it's the fat pitch ideas, right? Where some of the greatest investors made their most money or the best successes on very well timed bets.
Correct.
It's I mean, they're legendary.
I guess I open it this way, Ryan. Timing isn't maybe necessary, but timing can I mean, if you can do it, can just boost your returns by multiples by not timing.
It can.
I mean, I think that's the way of looking at it.
For sure. And I think sometimes even in and this is the bottom point, sometimes in very inefficient markets, like really inefficient markets, like very illiquid markets, you may have found a stock that checks all the boxes fundamentally. Like it's got the growth, it's got the quality, it's got the balance sheet, but it's so small that you and maybe 3 other people are looking at it, but it could stay low for quite some time.
But you can also, yeah, it could, yeah.
It could, and actually, I had one, DCM.
I own that. We own that. Yep.
Yeah, it was
another one. That's great.
It was quiet for months, but it still stayed in the top. And then it was some point earlier this year it started getting some traction. And nothing really had fundamentally changed.
That's DCMDF on the right, and then is that?
I think that's the OTC.
And the OTC, and then DCM is it TO?
TO.
Yeah. We actually had the team on as a fireside chat with us.
Oh wow,
it was funny. One thing I want to. I know you're running out of time, but we're on the timing thing. I was thinking about this last night before our talk, and why timing is important. I think in nanocap land, it can be because they're so illiquid. If you can find pockets of liquidity to build your position too. So then there's a stock I'm watching, and I missed it. In it's a 60 cent, it's a 50 cent, actually 60 cent stock now, 60 cents. They had great earnings around 24, 30 cents. And I didn't find it. I went back and looked. There was enough volume I could have built around that time to buy a good couple 100,000 shares. Now I can't. Now I got to buy 3,000 or 4,000. So timing isn't only to me like perfect timing in terms of when to buy something, right? But it could also be in nanocap land, like when the volume's there and you want to build a position. You got to watch these stocks because there will be volume that often can dry up at certain times.
Yep.
And to look for those timing, those entries.
Absolutely. Yep. No, it's I think it's something that, yeah, there's definitely stigma there, but
it's scary. When you're building a business in an illiquid stock, you know, it's only you buying, and you're looking, who knows more, me or the other guy selling it in an illiquid stock? Who's got more information in an illiquid market where information, you know, is king, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, and then sentiment. This is the S in guts, and yeah, this revolves a lot around analysts. So, I mean, what are analysts saying? Not necessarily in terms of price targets, but just say like the ratings, and then how the ratings are going up or down over time. And I think, as we're saying, Maj, there can be a stigma here, because I mean, some authorities will say, no, you have to do your own work. That's the best way to do it. But really, at least in the quant arena, I mean, this is a treasure trove of information. I mean, you've got all this input,
Right.
and I mean, if you have enough analyst ratings, I mean, if you've got one guy covering the stock, that's maybe higher risk. But if you've got 5 or 6 analyst ratings, you've got a nice little data set to say, okay, this is there might be something here.